And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to the very first official Eartha broadcast right here exclusively on Twitch TV. My name is Norbert, but you can call me Aeon if you'd like. I'm the lead community manager of Eartha Metaverse, and I'm honored to be the host of this event. Joining me today is the Eartha mastermind himself, Linus. Linus, please say hello to the stream and say a few words about yourself.
Well, hello everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. You know, when I came up with the idea of Urtha, well, I truly believed this would be an awesome game for me and my friends to play, but this is turning out to be quite of a revolution. So I'm really glad to have everyone here with us and on this road.
Wonderful. Could you also say a few words about Urtha? I'm sure we have a lot of new people joining that really want to know what the game and project is all about.
Sure. So for those who don't know, Eartha is a social strategic MMO metaverse game that is currently in the development, and it's all about making a place where you want to live in, with adventure, economics, politics, and science as the driving forces. So it's a game for players who enjoy making plans, developing their character and environment, and turning them into a lucrative enterprise which can potentially earn them money.
Which is probably the most important part. So, as some of us know, the idea of Eartha has actually been in the works for, well, nearly a decade. So, just how much this day does mean to you personally, launching the Eartha beta, finally being able to do that?
Well, you know, it's been a long road for the Eartha team, and it had its own highs and lows. I mean, it means a great deal for me personally, and it's something that I wanted to do for my entire life. So, what I want to emphasize is that this beta is only a start, and there will be so much more we want to add into it. So, well, also I'm sure we'll receive a lot of input from the community, and we look forward to reading it.
Alright, so I'm personally also very excited to finally be able to share the beta to the community and set off on this Eartha development path that is going to take us throughout this year. So let's just quickly go over the schedule of the launch event. In just a few moments, we will start the first part of our live AMA session. Our followers have had the chance to submit their questions on Twitter, and we have selected 5 questions to answer during this first segment of the AMA. After this part, we will go into a 5-minute break where everyone watching will be able to ask questions right here in the Twitch chat. We will select 5 more questions and answer them during the second part of the AMA. Then, after the AMA concludes, it's time for the main show. We start the countdown timer to beta, and once that's done, Linus will take the wheel and you'll be able to see the first look of the Eartha early beta. So also guys, make sure to spread the word about Eartha, share this event with your friends, join us on Twitter at EarthaGame, that is twitter.com/EarthaGame, and on Discord at discord.gg/Eartha. So, alright Linus, how are you feeling? Are you excited to get started?
Well, yes, I'm really excited to get started. So there's really a lot of stuff we want to show today, so let's just dive into it.
Exactly. There's no better way to tell our community more about the game than a live AMA session. So let's not beat around the bush and just head straight into the first segment of our live AMA, questions from Twitter. Starting off with the first question from the user Peter V. Reith. And he wants to know, will our bot NFT hexes already have utility during this beta?
Oh yeah, it's a great first question to ask, and I'm glad to give some insight into it. So, well, our current beta preview is what we want to show you what can be done in a browser environment, while making sure that there are a lot of people with different devices who would be able to join Eartha, that there would be a lot of people to do that. So our goal here is to show what we can do and get feedback on it, depending on the performance, the graphics, and the whole idea on how the metaverse should look like. So answering this question, during the beta preview, current NFT hexes will not have utility, but with the upcoming updates that we will do on the beta, as soon as we have it, users will be able to utilize and use their own bot NFT lands in the game.
Alright, so what you're saying here is that we will take into account community feedback about the early beta, and that is somewhat going to influence our development path moving forward, correct?
Indeed it is.
Alright, well, wonderful. Thank you for the answer. So, moving on to the second question from the user Anonymous XRP. And he wants to know, can towns be built on hexes that don't contain them?
Well, yes, our goal is to give the freedom to the player to do what he wants in the game. So towns or cities will be able to be built on hexes who don't currently contain them. However, currently sold hexes will have an infrastructure already laid out for it. So, other hexes will need to have some additional work to infrastructure and some upgrades to be done to make it possible to build a city there.
So, just to be clear, technically, you could try building a city in the middle of nowhere. Like, for example, even the Death Valley. You could, it will probably be more expensive and due to logistics and some other factors, but you could technically do it, correct?
Yeah, correct. You can technically build even on an entirely separate island, but it will cost more than building something on already built up infrastructure.
Could you build something on water? Let's say you build a platform where you build buildings on that water hex. Is that possible?
Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff we want to show in the upcoming updates. So this is one stuff that it's already in progress. So, well, I'm sure it will be possible. Water hexes will have quite interesting utility, but it's in the future.
All right, perfect. So it's time for the third question, and this time it's coming from the user with the name of Computer Guys. And he wants to know, how do you plan to manage the impact of Eartha token price variations on item prices, such as buildings or construction upgrades in-game?
Well, this is something that we are constantly checking and reassessing. So the game economy will be really expansive and it's hard to predict how it will go. However, currently all of our countries that will be released in the game will have their own in-game currencies, which will have an exchange rate to Eartha tokens available. So with those currencies, we will manage the impacts to Eartha token price by adjusting the exchange values to keep the game, playable.
Okay, so that's new information. Every country will have some sort of local currency that will be exchanged to Eartha tokens. Are those currencies going to be based on the current currencies in the real world? Are Eartha currencies are going to be the same?
Yeah, we are trying to make it look as close as possible to, let's say, the real world, but obviously some countries don't have their own currencies, so we will try to find probably, these historical ones, so that each and every country would have their own unique one.
All right, so countries will share the euro, for example. Is that going to be a thing, like an Eartha type euro?
It all depends on if Europe Union will be built on Eartha. Currently, when we release, that's up to the players.
All right, perfect. All right, let's move on to the fourth question from the user of WHunter000. He wants to know whether there are thousands of hexes in the ocean. How do you plan to make them attractive for buying, especially the ones in the middle of nowhere, let's say thousands of miles away from any continent?
Well, to answer this question, these hexes, I believe, will be attractive to future players once we release the full game and it's out of early beta phase. We will have the ability to get specific transportation through sea taxes, which will enable the play to earn aspect of the game. Also, water hexes, as we've already talked, will have a possibility to build specific structures on it. So we will announce that later on, but I believe that these lands will be useful, somewhat useful as land hexes.
So someone owning the Panama Canal is going to make a lot of money, basically, right? Because maybe because of travel through fees or things like that, logistics are going to be important in the game, from what I know. So that's the main idea, correct?
The logistical parts where potentially players will try to transfer their own items through is a way to earn money in the game. So yeah, that's a possibility looking into the future.
All right, perfect. Alright, so here comes the last question for the first segment of our live AMA. So a reminder to everyone that after this last answer, we are going into a 5-minute break where all of you will have the opportunity to ask a question right here in the chat. We will select 5 more, or maybe even more if we have time, to answer during the second part of the AMA. Alright, so let's move on to the final question. Coming from the user with the name of Fabio Ono, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, and he wants to know whether we will add a guild or alliance functionality in-game.
Yes, that is what we're looking into. We will be adding social functionalities into the game. So players will be able to join or create guilds in the game or alliances. Those will have role control, chats, message boards, and more. They will potentially probably also evolve in having their own, like alliances that could have their own buildings, resources. But that's for the future now.
It would be interesting if guilds had some sort of reputation statistic. So, for example, the ones that try to dominate the whole world can stand out as, maybe the bad guys of Eartha, and then the ones who just try to make business deals and really make the whole world peaceful could be exiled or something similar, basically. Would be cool to see that feature.
Would be cool. We will definitely have a similar feature on, personal players. They will have their own reputational stats, but potentially players who join the Alliance will be able to, have their own stats combined, as I think of now. That's all in progress, so stuff might evolve from here.
Maybe you could give us a sneak peek of how the player reputation statistic gets affected by certain actions in the metaverse?
Well, the most easy way to understand it is that whenever you do good or bad stuff, you can get, let's say, a rating of it. So it would be possible, it will have a bit of an impact on your rating in the game.
So basically other players will give feedback on your character, on how you play.
Yeah, indeed. It's not the full metric, but it does have influence.
All right, sounds very interesting. I hope I keep that reputation meter up, So great, that concludes the first segment of our live AMA. It's time for the live segment. We want to just jump straight into it. And just a reminder that after the live segment concludes, we will start a countdown timer to the early beta launch, and after the time is up, you will see the very first look of the Eartha early beta. Then just a few minutes after that, we will let you all know how you can personally join us and play the early beta for yourselves. So right, it's time to post your questions in the chat. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Eartha early beta launch event. Thank you for posting your questions during the break. There were so many, we had a long debate over which ones to pick, but I think we did successfully pick a few good ones, and we picked more than 5, I can tell you that. So I wish we could answer all of them, but we would be here all day, and I'm sure you guys actually want to see the beta. So, all right, more questions will be answered during the second part of the AMA, and after these 5 questions, the final countdown of the Eartha early beta launch will begin. So let's just jump right into it. The first question comes from the user, Your Daddy. What are the blueprints?
Oh, right. That is a great question that I wanted to answer now. The blueprints are one of the main economy pillars, in a way that if you own a blueprint, you will be able to create an item in the game. The blueprint will contain the resources and the prices that are needed to pay, and the energy that is needed to pay to make the item. So you will use the blueprints in the companies, and when a blueprint is installed in a company, you will be able to create the item. So it is one of the main item in the economy. Each items will have their own blueprints, and you will need to have them to be able to build an item.
Sounds interesting. So they're going to be a good way. The people who own like strong blueprints are going to be the ones making money in Eartha. Like that's one of the ways, correct? Is to have good, solid blueprint selection to choose from in your arsenal, so to say.
Exactly. Probably the ones who will have the unique blueprints will potentially make more of an impact in the economy and might potentially also earn money.
All right, so second question comes from Pradwan, and he wants to know, will we have 24 energy per wallet or per hex?
That is a good question to ask. Essentially, it's not like per wallet or per hex, but it's per player. So your player will have 24 energy per day, and it can choose where to use it. So the player can own different amount of hexes and potentially even different amount of wallets, but it all depends. You will have 24 energy per player.
All right, sounds good. Third question comes from Cooldown, and they want to know, will weather conditions affect our hexes? For example, natural disasters and things like that.
Yeah, so that is a great question. It is one of the things that we really anticipate on building inside of Urtha. Obviously, we cannot get all the updated information from all the world, but when we have information that is potentially influential for Urtha, we will do our best to make it in some sort of an event that happens inside of Urtha also. So, yeah.
All right, perfect. So just a reminder for everyone that exactly in 37 minutes from now at 1 p.m. UTC, we are going to see the very first look of the Eartha early beta. And just a few minutes after that, you'll be able to play it for yourselves. Then as we'll walk you through the process of joining the Eartha early beta. So, all right, stay tuned with us. And continuing to the fourth question from Getting the Repro, at which point in the game will it be possible to conquer lands from other players, or will it be possible at all?
So, about conquering the lands, countries will own the lands. So when we will enable the war feature of the game, countries will be able to fight for them and to either conquer them or lose them. However, the NFT buyers who own the NFT lands will not be able to lose them. So your current hex might at one point be in control of one country or in control of another country. But you as an NFT owner decide whether you own it or you want to sell it to someone else.
All right, sounds good. So I can already tell that some alliances are going to try to conquer, make their countries conquer the whole region or maybe even the whole world.
Exactly.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing that play out in the Eartha metaverse. So, all right, one more question comes from FSB Matt. And he wants to know, and I'm sure we were getting a lot of these questions, why has the price of the token dropped so much and not going up again? Spicy question.
Spicy question indeed. So, well, unfortunately, we don't have that much control on the token itself. It really depends on the market that is happening, on different things like Bitcoin price, on whether there's an active war happening on the world, and all this stuff that depends on it. So we cannot really control it ourselves. It all depends on whether people are buying it or whether people are selling it. So we are doing our best to keep the price up for our investors, but you know, there's a limit on what we can influence. So that's that.
All right, and actually I've just spotted a very important question here in the chat. A person just said that he does not speak English and does not understand what is being said. So will there be language support in Eartha?
That's a great question. Our goal is to have to reach as many players as possible in different regions of the world. So when we release the game, at first there will be English language as well, the main language. However, we will work hard on bringing different languages inside the game. So yeah, we are working on keeping the game, building the game in a way so that different kinds of languages would be supported, and so that we could, potentially have maybe even as many languages as there are in the world, as long as we have players of that language inside our game.
All right, exactly. So let's move on to the one of the more questions we have picked from the chat. So will there be a hex in the water to try in the beta now?
Great question. I think that's, you will see what happens in beta quite soon, but it will be only one hex, so it will be either or,
All right, so to follow that up, do water hexes belong to countries, or are there some kind of international waters or that sort of thing?
That's a good question. Well, we are trying to build Eartha at the moment to replicate the way how Earth works. So some of the water hexes will belong to countries, depending on how it is on the current political map. Some of the hexes will be international waters, so it will not belong to a country, but that is a thing that can really change quite fast in the game when players decide that they want to move with their country on another hex, so they will be able to do that. So current political map will be set the way it is, but I'm sure it will be different when the game is live and it's played.
All right, so I just spotted one more great question in the chat. A person wants to know whether we actually need to buy NFT hexes to play Eartha.
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, also, since our goal is to make sure that as many as possible people are able to play the game, it is not what we will do. So you will be able to log in, create your account and play the game without owning any NFTs or Eartha tokens. So you will be just not owning the land. Owning a land means you can get passive income from every transaction that happens in the game. So it might give you an edge on others, or it might not, depending on your strategy and how you use it. But from my perspective, I'm looking forward to bring everyone to Eartha who wants to try it, and not give, like walls of payment so that they would not be able to do that.
So basically the idea for landowners is that the income they receive is going to depend entirely on their skills and strategy, correct?
I believe so. Actually, everything that happens in the game will be dependent on your skills and strategy, so earning money included. You might be able to snatch, a great hex who would potentially be active even without your involvement. That would mean you would get passive income instantly. However, some hexes will require work to make them as a passive income business. So, that's a game. We are here to play it. We are not here to, let's say, have only grind without a payback. But I'm sure that if you spend your time wisely in Eartha, you will be able to get some sort of a payment from it.
So actually, speaking of passive income, we have just revealed what are portals on Eartha that lead to the moon metaverse. Could you maybe say a few words about that? Why are they so special, especially for generating passive income for their owners?
Indeed, portals are quite important in the game because they will be the main things that connect different metaverses in the game. So whether people choose to travel with their, let's say, users to other metaverses, they will need to pay a certain amount to do that, and that amount will also be split by the owner of the Portal Hex. So I think it's quite, since it's a limited amount of those, it's quite a no-brainer that it will potentially earn some sort of an income.
Wonderful. So the perfect next question to go to that comes from Night Digger. Can we build on a Portal Hex?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, Portal Hexes are, let's say, normal. So you can build your own infrastructure there also. It is probably a smart idea to do so. Let's say, I think people will create their own strategies on how to do that, but when creating the game, the idea of having a portal where, since we will have like a limited amount of those, is that people will use it to travel between metaverses, potentially bringing items from one metaverse to another. So, for example, a good idea would be to have a warehouse quite close to the portal, so that you could save the transportational fees that could be if you have the warehouse somewhere far away from the portal. So if you would build a warehouse close, it would mean you could save a bit of money, and that would be a good strategy to do.
So that's why the areas immediately surrounding portals are also quite valuable, correct? Due to logistics and transportation, resource storage maybe, things like that. So those are high traffic areas that will also offer more benefit to earn passive revenue to owners.
Yes, that means you will have some sort of an impact on what happens around the portal, and you will be able to, let's say, even rent out your warehouses to other people who would, let's say, maybe they don't have money at the moment to travel with these items in the metaverse that they are here now. So they could just you could lease your warehouse to them so that they could put their items there, and that could potentially give you some sort of an income moving forward.
All right, and I just spotted one more question in the chat regarding portals. So can you actually build a portal? They know you can buy them on the Eartha globe, but is it something that can be built?
That is a good question. We see portals as really expensive items. So I think it would be very hard to build it, but we want to give as much freedom as possible to the player. So if somebody owns a blueprint of a portal, yes, he will be able to create it and build it.
So you said blueprint of a portal. So will there be blueprints for example, ports and airports?
Indeed so, yes. All of the items that would be built on the game will be built through our blueprint system.
All right, wonderful. So one more question comes from a name I cannot pronounce, but he wants to know, is a version that runs on mobile planned? If so, when would the release be?
Great question, great question. Yeah, so our goal is to firstly release it on browser, since it's running on WebGL, and it is the most limited platform out there. So if we can run something on WebGL, that means it will run way better as an app or as a desktop experience. So yeah, our plan is to have apps and desktop apps also. And they will be, well, let's say, baked. It's not hard for us to do so. It's even easier to do than doing it in a browser experience. However, we might face some issues with posting it into app stores. So we are looking on ways on how to avoid that, on how to be able to check all the requirements of having an app in an app store. So that is on our roadmap, and I think it's possible that we will have some sort of a testing of it even before we release the full version of the game. So it's coming up this year.
All right, perfect. And circling back to blueprints, person in chat wants to know, so how do we actually get or do we create blueprints? How does that work?
Yeah, so blueprints will be generated by game. These actions will be, the actions that you do to get a blueprint will be quite interesting, and it is a bit of a leak of what we're planning on, but Mysteries will have something to do with it. And let's say I can tell you one way to have it. We will have quests in game, and when you complete a quest in the game, you will be able to receive a blueprint as a reward. So that's one way of getting it.
All right, and can we create custom blueprints? So I would be thinking someone has a custom NFT, maybe they want to see it in their own city or in their own player residence. Would that be something we are looking into, or how does that work?
We are definitely looking into a possibility on doing that. However, since our economic model is really complex, so bringing anything custom into it is giving it even a wider stretch on it. So we are looking into it. We want that to be a possibility. However, firstly, we want the basic blueprints to work correctly and to have economy up and running, and even be able to make money for the players that play the game. It's quite a bit of a challenge, but yeah, we are looking into it, and when we'll see.
All right, so we know properties in Eartha are NFTs, so will blueprints be NFTs too?
Indeed. Items like blueprints should definitely be NFTs, and they will have a value. So you will be able to own it, and you will be able to trade it.
All right, perfect. Guys, make sure to keep asking questions in chat. We really want to provide as much information here as possible, as much as we can. Remember that nothing is ever set in stone. Things can change throughout development, so just keep that in the back of your minds, and we'll do our best to let you all know what is going on. And so continuing on, so a person wants to know, can we sell blueprints? So I assume that's also one of the ways to make revenue. For example, do a quest, you receive a blueprint, and you can then sell that blueprint. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Yes, since it's an NFT, you own the item. You can do whatever you want with it. So yeah.
All right, wonderful. So one more person wants to know, what will happen to unsold hexes?
We are not going to sell all of these hexes. Our plan is to have some of them for the game also. So there's a plan that there will be some wars in the game where the reward for the, let's say, most valuable player of the war will be able to receive the hex as a reward. But so there will be some hexes in game which will not be sold on the market, which will be able to be earned only by being inside wars and being a great soldier, let's say so.
So what constitutes most valuable player in the war? What does a person have to do? Do they have to spend a certain amount of time? Do they have to spend a certain amount of energy? So how does that work?
It's all about the strategy. We are creating a strategic game here. So when you create your player, it will be released quite soon. So you will be able to select what your player is good at and what your player is bad at the same time. So you will have a limited amount of, let's say, points to assign to your different skills all around the game. And you might make your player like really good at something, but that will mean that it will be bad at something also. So you can make it an average on everything. That means you can do various stuff in the game averagely good, and going into the game you can evolve your skills and you can be better at stuff, but there will be a starting point to that. So you can make a player so that it would be like really great as a soldier but not good at anything else.
So basically, this is where the role dynamic comes in. Warriors, scientists, businessmen. So these are basically guidelines to start your character off, but you will still develop your character in various ways during gameplay, and you'll excel at some skills while being not so good in other skills.
Indeed. So we have like pre-made character templates that we call these roles. But that doesn't mean that if you are, for example, if you make your character like really great at war, that doesn't matter. You cannot go and work in a company. You can't do that. You will just have a lesser skill to do that, which means you will earn less income from that, and you will not be able to produce enough, like a lot of items or resources from your energy. So energy is really important part of our game, and depending on your skills, your 1 point of energy might be really worth something good or not in a certain subject that you do stuff in. So if you have a high skill in some place, let's say in war, your energy spent on a war will do more damage than the other players who have less skill there.
All right, so straight into the next relevant question. So how are wars actually going to be? Are there going to be first person? Like, are we playing Counter-Strike, or are a number of players allocated and it's like auto-completed turn-based? How is that going to work, if there's anything you could tell us?
I would like to tell, but we are still in progress of developing that, and I don't want to leak something that could potentially not appear in our full release. So at the moment, I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question.
Okay, I got you. So, all right, moving on. How interesting, or I assume JSEAL means how useful, will it be for players to go on adventures and travel, explore the world?
I think it would be very useful, because while exploring the world, you might find better prices for stuff. You might find locations that are really good at building your buildings there. You might explore and find quests, which potentially give you like great rewards to do that. You also might see that, for example, some country is better for your strategy than another country. It all depends on the tax policy, the politics and stuff like that. So I think keeping your player in one hex located is some sort of a strategy, but it's good if your strategy works well in that hex, you know. So I think a part of the game will be to find the right place, you know, for your player in Earthaverse.
All right, so will it be possible to found new countries through independence wars or similar situations?
That is a great question. We are still looking into it. Our goal is to make sure that current countries appear in the game, and there are quite difficult situations there, you know, since some of the people in certain locations have declared that they have a country, while others around might not actually, you know, acknowledge that. So that is what we aim to tackle in the game. So we are not here to decide whether one country or another country has the right to be in the game or not. We want the players to be able to do that. So if you are an influential politic and you, let's say, are a president of a whole country, and you have an alliance that can decide on things, you will be the one who has a word on whether something happens or not in the, let's say, in the political field, whether a country appears or not, whether you go to a war or not, and stuff like that. So it's a whole different point and path in game which you can take, and you can take all of the paths at the same time, but you know, we all have limited energy, we all have limited time in Earth and in Urtha, so probably it's best to find your own way where you are the best, you know.
So basically, players are going to be the ones shaping the Eartha metaverse, shaping the country borders, and forming the whole world of Eartha, basically. All right, so let's find one more question for this second segment of our live AMA, and then we'll move on to general questions about, general discussion about Eartha before we start the countdown to the first look of the Eartha early beta. So let me just quickly go through the chat and find an interesting question. Oh, here's a good one. Is there a limit on the total number of players / free-to-play players in Eartha? Will it support like 1 million plus players?
I believe so. We are doing our best to support an unlimited amount of players. Obviously, there are limits in real world, so there are limits on economies, there are limits on tokens and stuff. We are trying our best to manage that and assess all the risks. But our goal is to have the game really active, because if the game is active, if the players like the game, that means that the game will create its own economy inside, and that economy is the base of a whole token and the idea of having a metaverse, you know, either way. So, yeah.
All right, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up the second part of our live AMA and concludes the AMA segment. Thank you everyone for your questions. Remember to follow the stream by clicking the follow button below the video player, and follow Eartha Game on Twitter. That is twitter.com/EarthaGame. Now, Earthians, it's time for the final countdown to the very first look of the Eartha early beta. I'm sure a lot of you are excited. I am too. I'm sure Linus is too. I'm going to start the timer, during which Linus and I will discuss a few more things about the road that got us here and the road that is still ahead of us. Here we go. The timer will be on screen any second. The showcase will begin after the time concludes, and then just a few moments after that, we will invite you all to play the Eartha beta for yourselves. All right, let's talk about what Eartha has accomplished so far. So, what are the key moments that come to mind when you think about the long journey leading up to this day?
Well, you know, probably, I think the globe release was the key moment for Eartha. It was our first opportunity to let the community feel what it's like to be in Eartha, and let everyone pick their own lands to buy and to own their land plots. So we were able to gather quite a lot of useful information from the community, which helped us improve by a lot, you know. So another point is our, well, main partners, Shima Capital, LD Capital, and GD10 Ventures. They were extremely helpful, and they've been fantastic partners who have helped us to expand Eartha's visibility and get listed on the best exchanges, provides, and yeah, well, they also provided like really constructive feedback regarding on how to improve our strategy on how the token goes and our strategy on how to launch the game itself. And finally, probably revealing the Three Towers game studio was a major milestone for Eartha. It was our first chance to, well, show the world how big and ambitious our team is and what we are capable of achieving.
Could you maybe tell us a bit more about how the journey towards Three Towers, how did it start? How did it mature into existence?
Well, our whole team is really, it has quite a lot of people who have really good ideas. And we have another part of the team that is really good at making those ideas into reality. So it happened so that we were able to gather more than one great idea and bring best teams around us who are able to help us achieve them in a way that would potentially even revolutionize the fields that we are in. So I'm really happy that we are able to attract such great team members who work on it like 24/7 even. So that's how we eventually got into creating Three Towers Games Studio, because it wasn't one idea that we were developing at one time, and we all just put our best minds, our investments in it, and yeah, and it turned out to be quite a big player in this field.
All right, wonderful. So what about the present day? What should people expect from the very first look of the Urtha early beta? What does this mean for the game?
Okay, so the game will be browser-based. I'm sure I've said that quite a lot of time, but I want to stress it. So it means that it will be easily accessible by players all around the world. It means that you don't have to own a really expensive machine to run the game. You don't have to own a phone to run the game. If you have a computer and you have an internet connection, you can play Eartha. So that is my goal here, is to be able to reach even players in those less fortunate countries who would be able to potentially utilize Eartha to gain an edge on others who are not in the metaverse world. So also, well, with our bi-weekly update cycle, players can anticipate like frequent updates on the beta, allowing like early supporters, which you all are here now, to test the newest features and the changes that whenever they are developed. So I think it's a great thing to have to build the game with the community. And finally, I think that landowners will be able to view their hexes eventually and utilize their tokens eventually when we have a stable version of the game and a stable version of economy. So just to give you a slight understanding, so we will bring ability to landowners to utilize their hex first, and only after we have a really stable and working game economy, we will let's say turn on the play to earn experience in the game, which will eventually mean that Eartha token will be part of the transactions that happens in game, and that's all down the road. This current state has a way to show on what is possible to bring in a browser-based game.
So I'm actually interested myself. We've said that landowners will be able to develop, interact with their hexes at some point in the beta. So will players be actually able to develop their characters? Let's say free-to-play players want to hop in game, create a character. Maybe it will be possible at some point during the beta to develop their skills.
Exactly. So our goal is to not release, half-baked stuff into the world. It always can happen, we are working hard to fix all the bugs, but character creation is on our timeline. It should be quite soon. We want all the players to be able to hop on, create their own characters, set their own skills and basic stats, let's say so, and then find good ways on how to improve that or how to use them inside the game. So I think even before we release the play to earn abilities inside the game, the early supporters, you all who are watching the game and this transmission right now, are able to be the first ones to find good strategies here, and it's all about the strategy. It's a strategic game, and you will see how we develop it. You will see what happens each update that we release into the game, and I think that you will have an edge, even though there will be more players when we release the play turn mechanics in the game.
So basically this beta is the very first foundational brick to lay down in this development journey that is going to take us throughout this year. And well, the community is going to impact us a lot, their feedback, things like that. So could you maybe tease what's in store for Eartha in the following months or even weeks besides character creation? Maybe you have something in mind you could tell us or give us a little sneak peek of.
I think the first things that we will be working on will be exactly the character creation system that will allow players to create their own unique characters. After that, the system we are working on making sure that our landowners are able to generate their own hexes. So that means we have a system, a map generator who collects all the information that we have gathered about specific plots in space, in Earth, and we generate how that specific spot should look like. So the landowner will have quite a lot of impact on that. He will be able to do some modifications. I cannot tell yet what they will be, but that's what we're working on. And well, essentially we are committed to bringing each and every hex to life, as well as empowering all the landowners to develop their lands and eventually build their own properties on it. So also we'd love if Earthan communities began to form their own alliances inside to continue to work with us to help us develop the functioning play-to-earn model inside our metaverse. So that's what I'm looking the most in the upcoming months.
Yeah, I can tell you personally that we have a lot of amazing alliances already being formed. First off is the Eartha Mafia, which, well, as their name suggests, they're actually very friendly and very nice to talk to. Also the BEP, if I'm remembering that correctly, the Brazilian Eartha players. So yeah, a lot of alliances being formed. Basically, Eartha is already being played in the social aspect. People are making strategies, they're looking for business partners, they're building alliances to really just get one foot in the door when they finally start playing the Eartha game. And it's amazing to finally be delivering the Eartha early beta right here today in just over 3 minutes. So any last words before we finally do the reveal of the Eartha early beta?
Well, I mean, I'm eager to show everyone what we have today, so let's jump straight into it.
All right, so just over 3 minutes left. We will go into a short ad break and then into a short intermission just until the countdown timer finishes, and then we are going to see the very first look of the Eartha early beta. And then just a few moments after that, Linus is going to walk you through on how to actually play the beta yourselves, how to join. I can tell you I'm super excited for this, so we'll be right back with you just after this short break. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The very first look of the Eartha metaverse is right there on your screens. Personally, I am incredibly excited. It's really quite amazing to see what the development team has been able to achieve, considering that Eartha is browser-based. The hex feels alive. There are so many variations of buildings and properties, vehicles driving around, a lot of things are interactive. All in all, a great job from our development team, working days and nights to get the early beta ready for March. So anyway, I could ramble on all day, so I'm handing over the controls to Linus, who will now walk you through the beta, and in a few short minutes we are going to let you all know how all of you can join the early beta and check it out for yourselves. Linus, you are in control.
Great, Norbertus, thank you. So I'm really pleased to be able to show you this. Just a few minor comments before I dive in deep into it. So we have the whole hex here. However, this is a demo hex. This is not something that will be when we release the full game. So this is a demo experience that we want to show what is possible to do in a browser-based environment. That means that we have different kinds of, you see the clouds flying around, you see buildings here. This is all a 3D world. This is all running on my browser here. and we have different types of buildings here. Some of these currently are only the visual ones. However, when we release, well, let's say the full game, all of these buildings will have their own owners, will have their own utility that they have inside the game. Well, for example, here we have a bakery, which will be used in game to create bread. So that means that it has, let's say, a bread blueprint inside of it, and it uses grain to do that. So it can employ up to 3 players, and it has some sort of health meter, which means that it can be, it can get damaged. So let's zoom in a bit just to show you what we have here. The whole city has different types of hexes. Oh, here you have skyscraper inside. Skyscrapers are a great asset to have because it will have more than one, let's say, inner building floor that you can explore, and you can rent it out and stuff when the game releases. Now I'm just scrolling around the map just to show you what we have. We have different types of stuff here. Some buildings have well, their unique values, some currently don't. And we will be able to see cars driving around, but cars will represent basically how active the hex is. So currently it's not that active, and it's not yet connected. Oh, I see some cars moving around. What we have been working on over this year is to have, let's say, different types of AIs inside the game, so that, for example, the cars drive themselves. They do have their own rules how they do that. So they have they drive well, according to the laws, how they're allowed to. However, as in real life, some crashes happen. So I see there's a little bit of a crash here, and the cars cannot move through it. But anyways, there's a very important part that I want to show you also. As you can see, the game has different views that you can view from different angles, and it's all well, browser-based, let's say. So we will have ability to see different time inside a day. So that is an awesome thing that we've been working on. It means that when we release the full game, all the hexes will depend on the time that it is at the time that the real world part where the hex is created, it will have the same time zone. So for example, if there will be night, we will have like buildings with lights on and less activity inside the streets. That's also possible. And to be fair, I could also show you a lot of stuff that, well, we have like trees around here, some grass, some stuff. But there's a very exciting thing that I want to show you at the moment, which is the way how you can feel the game that you're in. Which means that in this beta, we are releasing a thing that we haven't even told you that we are working on at the moment, which is the first person view. So that means you can jump into a certain part of the city and feel the way it is at the moment. So let me jump straight in here. So that means I'm looking from the first person view, and I can see the city, how it looks like, well, exactly from the view if I would be even inside that hex. So I'm really excited to show this to you guys. This means that you will be able to run around these streets. Oh, I see a crash down here, and we have some cars stuck in traffic. ooh, there's a big crash here. So you can do quite a lot of stuff here, which means that you can go from the first person view into the third person view and see where you were at that time, and potentially even, well, let's say I can travel inside the exact spot that my mouse is pointed at, which means I can do a lot of cool stuff here, which means I can teleport on cars, I can teleport between cars, and, well, let's say so. This is a fun thing to do. You can impact those cars. So if I teleport where the cars are located, I will be able to move them and cause a bit of a crashes inside. So it's a fun thing to do inside the game. But what I wanted to do is to move that car that's blocking the road. So let's try to do that here. By jumping in and out of the third person experience, I'm able to move that car and let other cars drive. And now let's jump in on this car, and we have a red light at the moment. The car waits for the green light to be, and I can drive around on the top of this car, well, inside this city. So you see, it's the metaverse that we are creating here. That means we have the full world where players will be able to interact, and this is just one hex, you know. So yeah, there are quite a lot of stuff you can do here. So let me just show you around. I can. There are controls. So at the side of the screen, I don't know if you are able to see that inside this transmission, but inside the game you will be able to see the controls. Since my resolution is very high, it's quite small probably to you, and you will be able to, let's say, run around with keyboard. Will be able to jump around and to increase your speed by running by, you know, just clicking shift. So that means you can run faster. So yeah, that's the first person view inside Earthaverse. Let's ride with these cars.
All right, so I think the chat is really dying from anticipation. So do you think we've teased our viewers enough? Guys, are you excited to play? So. Type yes in the chat if you're excited to play. Let's just see how many people. All right, yeah. Perfect.
I'm just driving around the city to see, you know, in this cool car.
All right, so now just before we tell you how to play, I want to let you guys know that just in 30 minutes from now, a surprise event will be launched where you will be able to win Urtha NFTs just by playing the Urtha beta. So make sure to follow our social channels. And all right, I think it's definitely time. Lunas, do you want to show them how to join?
Yeah, I think I can. So first of all, you will have to go to our globe, which means it actually was already out for quite some time. If you guys were browsing around the globe, there was a ability to jump into this beta. So yeah, let me just see. I'm in the globe at the moment, but I'm gonna restart the globe and load it. So just for you guys to understand, you have to force reload the globe if you've been watching it before, which means you will get the newest version of the globe available. And oh, I damn really like this view of the whole Earth inside Eartha. And what you need to do is to find a very remote location, which we've been hiding for this whole time. It's actually in the middle of nowhere, which is called the Hawaiian Islands. And let's zoom in it. And there's one specific hex which you can try, which is exactly this one, 269386, which has a view button inside it. So if I press the view button, I'm able to log into the game with registering. So if you haven't yet signed up, you need to sign up to do that. And since I already have it, I'm signing in. And that means I'm signed in and I can jump into the beta experience. And here I am. Now, just to show you some stuff around, you have some control over time in here. You have some controls here where you can pan around the city. You can rotate the city with your mouse, and to be sure, if you don't have let's say a mouse which has the third button to jump into the early beta, you can just press the tab button, which will allow you to jump wherever your mouse is let's say pointing at. But to be sure, it will take quite some time for you to load it the first time. Since I already been playing it, it's loading from cache, but you will have to load it, with some time. So since there are quite a lot of you, it means you might need to wait a few minutes to get into it. But don't worry, it will load. You will be able to do that quite soon. So don't worry if it shows loading at the moment or any error. You can just reload the screen and be able to dive into it.
Yeah, we have nearly 1,000 viewers currently, so just imagine all of you just trying to jump into beta and downloading the whole globe and the game one more time. So of course it's going to take a little bit of time. So meanwhile, while your guys' globe loads, Linus will just continue on the walkthrough with the beta. So Linus, take it away.
Okay, so there are a few things, cool things that I want to show you. You can interact with buildings a bit. You can let's say jump on some buildings, which is an amazing thing I'm doing sometimes, but I'm sure you will find a way to do that, so I'm not gonna leak it up just right now. Also, we will have a specific quest to do here. So Norbertus, do you want to talk about it?
That's right. So I talked about a surprise event we are launching in, well, just a few short minutes here. So basically, I'm sure you guys like treasure hunts, and I like them too. So I've managed to come up with a treasure hunt inside the early beta. You guys are going to have to find 5 codes that are someplace in the beta, as well as find Linus, find me, and find Yuko in the early beta. Basically find our pictures. So it's going to be a Gleam campaign. It's going to be pretty easy to complete tasks. It's pretty self-explanatory, so make sure to follow our socials. We will announce the event just after we conclude this beta walkthrough.
Indeed. So I'm sure you guys all want to jump straight into it, so I think let's not waste a lot of your time, so that you could just find a way to get inside and see this map. By the way, some last words about it. It is a demonstrational map, so it is a demonstration of a hex that is really huge. It would be something like a capital or something that has a lot of these buildings already pre-built. Most of the hexes will be probably much smaller than this one. So this is an experience that you can take on a ride now and see what is Eartha capable, what is your browser capable of doing at, and I'm sure that with some time we will find the best ways to go with it and find the best experiences to experience inside this Earthaverse.
So guys, I can see that you have already all crashed the globe site. Just give it a few minutes. I'm sure it'll be back up soon. It looks like people are getting a 504 error. So, well, I guess that's a good thing. The Eartha beta was really hyped, so I'm really glad to see such a big turnout. Nearly 1,000 viewers at one point. completely mind-blowing. So yeah, it's time to wrap up the walkthrough. People will get into the beta, people will start playing the treasure hunt. So as a final message, what do you have to say to our dedicated community who has been with us through this journey so far? Does this mean a lot to you, finally being able to show what we've been hard at work with?
Oh, it really means a lot to me. I've been working on it for a very long time now, and I'm happy that we're able to do stuff that we're showing to you now, because there was, you know, highs and lows in here, and there were times where I wasn't even sure that we can or we will continue, but from the support that we get from you guys, it's like it's amazing, and it helps us to move forward and to bring you the best experience here in our Eartha world.
Alright guys, so just give a few minutes for the Eartha globe to come back up. I'm sure our developers are sweating bullets at this point trying to fix it, and once it's back up, follow our socials. We're gonna post the full instructions on how to participate in the beta. It's very simple. You just go to globe.urtha.com, you go to Hawaiian Islands, and it is hex number 269386. You're gonna click view on the hex. It's gonna prompt you to actually register for the game, so that's gonna be your game account. Once you register, you click view, and the beta just loads right in. You'll be able to see this very hex you are able to see now on screen. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with us through today's early beta launch event. Personally, this is really something I've been looking forward to for months now, and I'm sure Linus has the same feeling for even longer. So make sure to hit that follow button here on Twitch, follow us at twitter.com/ErthaGame, and join our Discord server at discord.gg/Eartha. So the surprise event is the treasure hunt is going to be happening any minute now. Stay tuned to our socials. And Linus, any final words?
Well, yeah, I'm happy everyone been here with us. So thank you for joining. Follow us on all the socials. You know, we will have many more announcements and many more news coming up quite soon. So yeah, stay with us.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.